I'm just gonna.
Hey, everybody. We want to welcome you to Spiritual Discoveries with Dan and Angela.
Yep.
And today we're going to talk about Dr. David Hawkins. He was one of my favorite spiritual teachers for about 18 years. I've seen him twice. I saw him once at Mile High Church of Religious Science, and I also saw him down in Sedona. Angela saw him with me.
Yeah.
And it was the most beautiful experience. And I got to say, I heard about this guy through Dr. Wayne Dyer. And I went to Mile High Church and I went to see him. They said Dr. Hawkins was speaking, and there was a spiritual experience that happened. I was sitting on the front row and my eyes were just sort of tearing up. I was listening to this guy, and the love coming off him was just moving me. And it felt like I knew his talk. I felt like we were like telecommunicating, and I knew his talk. And I said, my God.
Man.
And I was like, this is beautiful. But then I looked over in front of the platform and people started walking up. And one lady came up and sat down in front, and she sat down and she just kind of sat there like this, like she was kind of bathing in his love. And then another person came up. Then all of a sudden 12 people came up. And then when I looked about 15 minutes later, there were 200, 300 people sitting on the platform around his feet. And I was like, holy shit, like, who is this guy? And so he had a book called Power versus Force, which is this one here, Dr. David R. Hawkins. It says the hidden determinants of human behavior. And so I picked up that book and read it from cover to cover. And it was explaining the difference between power and force. And he was basically saying in life, if you force, there's another force pushing back with equal or more force. But he was saying power is. So he goes into lovingness as being a tremendous power. It's as powerful as the sun. Like he said, what makes the sun come up? What makes the sun, come out and heal everything, make everything grow, do all this stuff. So he said the sun power just is. And he says love just is. And he equated them together. But anyway, what I did after that was I was just blown away by this guy. And so he said he had another book coming out called Eye of the Eye. And I read it cover to cover. I mean, I literally, it's this book here. And this is probably my sixth book.
I love that one.
Eye of the Eye, from which nothing is hidden. And I read it cover to cover. I wore out like 4 volumes of it. I told everybody about it because it was how to get out of the ego. And why I loved it was because what I think about when I think about Hawkins and the scale of consciousness that he came up with, what I think about when I look at this is having your own personal psychiatrist. He was in therapy. He was a psychologist, and he was in therapy. And he was so out of the way with his spiritual practice, meaning he didn't go in with a head full of academia knowledge, but he would walk into a clinic with unconditional love. And he said right at the end, he could walk into a schizophrenic place, a mental hospital, and people would snap out of their schizophrenia because of his unconditional love. And I was like, holy crap. Now, I had a mother who was a schizophrenic. So I was like, holy crap. I wish he would have known Dr. Hawkins, but he would walk in with this pure love and just this essence of, I'm so sorry, and I love you, and I accept you, and there's nothing wrong with you. And he would see him as this person, and they healed.
Just recently we were at a massive, wonderful, wonderful, love-filled conference in Tucson, Arizona. And Dan had a massive healing in his body just from the love that was in that room. And so
did I tell you about
real.
That, Quinn?
This is really real.
Did I tell you about that?
We don't have to tell us all that much about it.
No, I think you might have told me that before, but I don't mind hearing it again because I can't recall the details.
Yeah. Well, it was just a massive healing. I was telling Angela as we were sitting in the conference, it was a 37th, what is it, annual conference or something?
Yeah, that's not the point of this.
Yeah. But anyway, I just want to say, because of the love there was a love energy there. There was a pure love energy in the air. And I didn't know if it was love energy or what, because I had the fundamentalist Christian perspective. that there's energy here, and I hope it's good. I hope it's all 100% good.
Yeah.
Because there were symbolism, there were images, there was a video playing behind this lady doing this. And so I felt this amazing, powerful energy traveling through the air. And I looked at Angela, I said, man, do you feel what I feel in here? And she says, yeah. And I said, holy crap.
And then he was healed.
And all of a sudden I was healed. My back was out and my chest was out. And I didn't even know if I could drive down there. And a month before, I didn't even know if I could make it to Anacortes.
And nobody even touched him.
Nobody touched me.
I sat right next to him. We're in the second row.
And I was healed. And the way I was healed was kind of weird, but I won't go into that. But I was healed, and it's never came back. It's been gone. It was with me for years. And I was like, whoa. So Hawkins also had some experiences like that. He was talking about one day he was out on a trail down in Arizona, down in Sedona. And he said he was hiking, and he said he walked over and stepped over a rattlesnake that was like twice the size of him. It was massive. And he said this thing coiled up and it could have killed him. It just would have killed him dead. He was out in the middle of nowhere. And he said he took his foot and he just went it like this, very slow. But he said he had a condition of love for the snake, that he was scared, that it was just wanting to protect this thing. And he put his foot over it like this. And he said when he did, he said the love that was coming off of him kept the snake at bay. And the snake didn't bite him, and they went their own way. And so I started reading some of these stories. He had quad bifocals.
Glasses.
They were 4 levels. His eyes were totally messed up. And he said one day God told him, just take off your glasses and just see what you could see. He said, most people just use their eyes for lust anyway. So he said, just take off your glasses and let yourself see what you see. And that's all God wants you to see. So he did. And so he'd get in his car and he could see to put the key in. And then he could see just the road in front of him. He drove down the road anyway, just a few days later or something like that. There's a tape on it. But he didn't need glasses again. He could read. He went to his seminars. He could see the slides. He didn't have any cataract surgery or anything like that. His eyes were completely healed. So what intrigued me about this, I'll just say a couple things. One thing was, you got to know your enemy within yourself. And one thing Hawkins helped me to see was the enemy within myself was my lower consciousness. It was, and who's going to tell you that? You know, I thought, well, I'm just supposed to be angry. I was in a cult for 40 years and they screwed my life over and I lost 40 years of my life and I didn't go to school and all this stuff. And so I was angry. I was also a victim. I couldn't wait to tell everybody, hey, do you know what happened to me? Do you know what happened to me and those damn Jehovah's Witnesses? They did this and they did that and they did this and they did that. And I went on and on and on and on talking about my story. Well, as I got into Dr. David R. Hawkins' work, he was saying, you don't have to stay angry. That's an attractor field. And I thought, what's an attractor field? He said, well, that's a state of consciousness that you can be in. There's a lot of angry people in the world that, you know, if you drive up to them, you drive past them on a car, they might shoot you. They might get out on the road and just fill you with lead. He said there's people that are victims. They tell their whole story, their whole life. And he said, so his studies in this transcending levels of consciousness, this one talks about this scale from here all the way up to the top, this being bliss, God. He said God hangs out at the top of the scale, death and dying, apathy, grief. They screwed me over. My life sucks. All this down here. So he explains this. So as I started getting into it, I thought, oh my God, I can leave anger. Oh my God, I can leave my story behind. And he explains these things. In this book, he explains it. Like he'll go into victimization, right? He'll go into victimization and he'll say, okay, here's what a victim looks like. It's this. He has a discussion. He calls it a discussion. He goes, here's a victim. Let me tell you how bad it was. Oh, God, let me tell you how bad it was. And so, and let's see, what was I going to say? So anyway, you tell this story. It's years later. It could be even 20 years later. Oh man, you don't know what they did to me, you know, just like you're reliving it. And he said, in order to transcend being a victim, you've got to give up the price that being a victim pays you. And I thought, price a victim pays me? And I read a little further, and he said, yeah, when a victim tells his story, the payment he gets is sympathy. You get people go, oh man,
Which is
oh
some love, right?
yeah.
But it's not
It
lasting.
ain't good, because the same guy you're talking to has heard your story 100 times, and he goes, oh man, like my brother Phil. Oh man, Phil, man, you had it rough, man. Man, you took care of your dad and your brothers didn't help out. Oh man, you had it rough, dude. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. And so Hawkins was saying that is a payoff to your ego. That's a payoff to your consciousness. So he said, if you'll give up that for something greater, then, and I was like intrigued by this, because I always wanted to know how things work. How does life work? How do people get ahead? Why are more people ahead than me? Why do people make more money? Why do they smile and I'm angry? And what is going on? And so Hawkins broke it down. So he said, if you'll give up the price that being a victim is paying you, you might get paid something different. So I gave it up. And how I gave it up was an inner child journey. When I went into that inner child journey with 300 people, I couldn't wait to tell my story. I got it. We broke into small groups. It's 300 people in there. They had the windows blocked off. And I thought, what is this place? What's going to happen here? Mm-hmm. So we all start telling our story, and I tell my witness story, and I start bawling. They said, what did God look like to you when you were young? And I had to build like a statue. And I said, well, go over there and stand up on that thing and have your arms folded.
It's like a human, statue, structure.
Yeah. So a guy went across the room and he went like this. He's Jehovah, and he's waiting to educate judgment. So he froze like that. And then he said, what's the next thing that you had? Well, there's the Watchtower reader, and there's the Bible guy, right? So he had a guy up there like this, and they had another guy with a Bible, and then he had Jehovah behind him, and I'm looking at this model. And then he says, okay, where were you sitting? Well, we were sitting in the back of the hall, and my parents were sitting here, and my mom was sitting here, and my dad was sitting here. My dad would crack us on the head with his thumb like this, and if we moved, and all of a sudden I started crying. And this was the end. This was the end of being a victim. I started crying, and there's a facilitator there, and she says, what are you crying about? And I said, well, as I look out, I'm seeing this angry God that's mad at me for no reason. I didn't do a damn thing. I had nothing to do with Adam and Eve. And here I am, this thing. And why is he mad? And then I said, who in the hell are these people between me and God regurgitating shit that they think they heard? And I thought, this is wrong. And I said, there's no mediator between me and God, and there's no reason for God to be mad
at you.
And that was the end of religion for me. That I was done with religion from that point forward. Go ahead.
Beyond that, though, there was in the same little gathering that weekend, Inner Child Journey, there was another lady and a whole bunch of different people telling their stories. And tell about that.
Yeah, there was other ladies that said, oh, I got raped by my preacher. Oh, I got raped by my dad. Boys sodomized by their father. Fathers tell them to take drugs and screw them in the butt.
So they're all here, Dan's hearing all these
stories. So I'm hearing all these stories, and I go, shit, I don't have no story. These people have stories. I just sat in a dumbass kingdom hall listening to some crazy freaks telling me God's angry, you know what I mean, from something they read out of the Bible. And I was like, I don't have a story. I'm telling you, there were 300 people in there wailing, and none of them ever felt like they connected with God. They always felt like it was like this. Like one lady was laying down on the ground, and she says, reach down to me. And I reached down to her, and she reached up, and she's going like this. And I said, what does that mean? And she says, I can't touch God. Well, you can't touch God because God's angry. God's mad. God's untouchable. God, you know what I mean?
In your mind.
In your mind. And so all these people were doing it. So at one point, I looked around, and there are 300 people in different religions going through the same thing I went through.
Yeah, because this represented all religions.
Religious bullshit.
At this meeting.
Religious bullshit. Weekend. Total bullshit. Mm-hmm. And so I went, wow, look at all these people in this illusion of religiosity, the illusion of the angry man, the illusion, I'm a sinner, I'm a wretched freaking shit. And I went, this is total bullshit. And so it was called an inner child journey. And man, I was able to heal from that. And then at the end of the inner child journey, I'll just tell you, they had a deal where you were going to be born from healthy parents, right? This is a big, long thing. This is 3 days. You walk back through your life. You forgive people. It was like a 12-step. It had all this stuff in it. But one of the last things I remember is right at the end, they said, we're going to reborn you through a birth canal. And the birth canal was made up of people in the group, hundreds of them. And they were going to hold their hands like this. People on this side were going to hold their hands up, and people on this side were going to hold their hands up on both sides. And you told those people what you wanted to do. You told the people at the beginning of this little tunnel you were going to go through.
The birth canal.
Birth canal. You said, I want to write a book. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. I want to do that. And they're like, okay. So they're telling people down the tunnel you were going to go through, right? This birth canal.
So they're all prepared, knowing what you want to be and do in your life.
They're all prepared.
What's your dream?
And so there's these parents way down at the end waiting for you. And they're like this, oh my goodness, Dan's coming. Oh my God, what does God have for us? And you're walking through this tunnel, and the people are like, you will be an author. I wasn't an author then, I am now. And they're like, you're going to be an author. You're going to be something wonderful and magnificent.
Whatever Dan had told them, they were repeating.
This is like science of mind. You're going to be awesome. What God made was good and very good. You were made in his image. You're a gift to mankind. We're so waiting for you, Dan. We're so waiting. This is healthy parents, right? We're so waiting for you. We love you. It's almost like
you were all angels saying these wonderful things as you're being birthed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I bawled like a baby.
And then he came out the end, and there's the parents to take him.
And they have a big birthday cake for you.
Yeah.
And they're like,
remember, you guys are Jehovah's Witnesses. You don't celebrate birthdays. Yeah. So you can imagine how Dan's feeling about his birthday cake.
Yeah. So I see that, but I saw I'm important. I'm something. I'm good. And they were celebrating my life, which is what your unities and science of mind do. It's like celebrate life, celebrate.
That's how your parents should be feeling.
It is. Not, I shouldn't have had this kid. Oh my God.
Or this kid, boy, doesn't have a chance. The world's ending any day. You know, what's the point of this birth? You know, shoot, we shouldn't have any kids. You know, this kind of thinking. No, it shouldn't have been that way.
So I come out and I'm bawling and I'm going, oh my God. And they give me the biggest hug, the biggest embrace, full hug. And everybody's crying and holding me, and it was such a healing time for me. I just think about that. That was the end of religion, end of it. I never ever turn back, ever, and ever will, because it's total crap. And I got healed. I got whole. I had more healing to do. I mean, it's a journey. You have layers of stuff buried in your consciousness. But what I loved about
Did you want to say something, Quinn?
Yeah, just could you backtrack a little bit when you start to talk about the attractor field and like being angry that could you explain that attractor field? Because I think like are you referring to like how if we stay angry that we're going to continue to attract?
Yeah, yes.
Attract, yeah.
So the attractor field is an energy field. It's or you could say it's a state of consciousness that I'm in at the time. Some people can stay in it their whole life. Like Hawkins said, now here's what's important.
Like Quinn. Anger or
grief, anger, grief,
bitterness,
sadness. You ever heard somebody say, I'm sad, I'm really sad.
All the time.
Angela used to say that a lot. I'm really sad. I'm so sad. And so you can stay in that your whole life, right? You can stay in sadness and hopelessness and despair. So Hawkins called them attractor fields, or states of consciousness that people were in. So see, when you go to a therapist, what a therapist usually does is he has a piece of paper and a pencil. And so when you come in, or a clipboard, he usually has a clipboard, and he says, tell me about your life. What do you think God is? Or, whatever. And as you talk, he's probably writing down where you're at. Okay, he's a victim. Seems like he's been a victim for 22 years. He's still telling the same story. He's blah, blah, blah. He's very angry. Wow, he's had a 10 on anger. So we're probably going to have to give him some work to do to reduce his anger, maybe even put him on some meds. That's what he's writing down as he's talking. He's like doing a chart. This thing here, if you ever get this, you can get this at Veritas Publishing. Online.
Veritas Publishing.
Yeah. And
Veritas Publishing is how it's said.
All of these books you can get there too, Veritas Publishing. And you will understand yourself. Now, here's what's beautiful, even more beautiful. You not only will understand yourself and be given the opportunity like I was. Do you want to stay a victim, Dan? Or do you want to let that go? Do you just want to eat these crumbs? A lady told me one time, Dan, you eat crumbs. Everyone else eats steak, you eat crumbs. Why don't you want more to life? She's the one who helped me. She helped me make a lot of money. She gave me ideas and things. I said, I'm not going to eat crumbs anymore. And so what Hawkins' book does for you and his information is he gives you a diagnosis of yourself. And what's beautiful in the privacy of your own home, you can look at the scale, you can look at the book, Transcending Levels of Consciousness. You can look at where you're at,
So
non-judgment.
Talks about each of the levels in the book, right?
Every level, yes.
So the grief level,
level,
whatever's going on
it's
in
like
that
it's
level.
like disdainful, tragic, grief, regret, despondency, despair. These are very
low.
low.
Level of what is it, 50? Yeah, at the level of 50. So you're trying to get to 1,000. There's on that same level is despair, abdication, apathy, hopeless. So hopelessness, condemning yourself,
shame, miserable.
But that's all in the 50 realm.
Yeah, let me say something about that. See, these are in the red. This is danger zone. Below 200 is what makes you sick. This is what makes your arm go weak on a kinesiology scale. So if you hold your arm out and you muscle test any of these, shame, guilt, and apathy, your arm will go weak, which means your body will go weak, which means this all here represents disease, mental disease, and then physical disease. So you want to get out of these lower attractors. So as he does the discussion on them, shame, this, that, he walks through each one of them. And as you go through them, you're like, okay, I got a little bit of that, a little bit of that. And here's pretty much where I hang out most of the time. And when you can identify it, he goes, now let's have a discussion how to transcend it. And that's what this book is. I'm just showing it more so you can see it. Transcending.
You know, it's funny, whenever you used to talk about attractor fields, I don't know why my mind would go to tractors, you know, so to track like a conveyor belt, like a tractor. But it's attraction. It's attraction. You're being magnetically attracted to that, and you're going to draw everything like it to yourself from everything in life because of your hanging out in that mindset.
Good point. Yeah, that's a good point she made. Yeah, because like attracts like. So if you're a victim, you're going to attract more victims.
Right.
Man, let me tell you my story. And you're like, oh, shit, I don't want to hear your story. I want you to hear my story. A lot of victims fight over time of telling their story.
Yeah.
So let me just say one thing. This is actually called a map of consciousness. In his book, he calls them attractor fields where you're stuck. The reason he calls them, and it's called Institute of Advanced Spiritual Research. This here is a whole psychology program.
It's also scientific.
Yeah, and here's what's beautiful about it. This here, once you begin to heal yourself, once you shift out of some of these consciousness, because you see that they're attractor fields, which means they're loops. They're loops. They keep you chasing your tail. You've heard that saying, you're chasing your tail. You're chasing your tail. This guy ain't going nowhere. He's still telling his story. He's still angry. So, you know what I mean?
Well, can I just say
go ahead.
Well, before I knew anything about David Hawkins, and I had not met Dan quite yet, almost. But I was in a situation where I was very depressed. My husband had left me for someone else. He'd already been living with her for about a year. My children were, you know, being brainwashed against me. And I was just dying. I was literally dying. And so anyway, everything that was happening to me was just crazy. I would lock my keys, you know, out, you know, somewhere in the house or something. And oh my gosh, now I can't get in the house. Or I'd spill the crock pot of whatever I made for the job site that day for me to work, all over my tools, all over the back seat. The tire went flat, you know, so the more I thought in this negative realm of self-hatred, and I'm so depressed, and the more I hung out in that attractor field of grief and apathy and depression, the more everything like it was attracting to me. And I thought, what is going on here? It's not the kind of life I had been used to living before all this stuff went down like it was. And I was being rejected. I was not that kind of person. All of a sudden, everything bad is being attracted to me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it hits me. I am attracting this stuff to me. And I think I was reading some wonderful books at the time, and I'm sure it spurred my mind, but I didn't know anything about Dr. Hawkins. I didn't understand about attractor fields either, where I was attracting this stuff like a magnet to me. So, and when I started realizing it, I'm like, okay, you know what? You're going to have to start lifting up yourself in your mind, and people are seeing this. Like I could see it on people's faces, like they can see that I'm weak. And like as if I had a sign on my head that said weak, loser, or something. I could feel it. I'm like, okay, I've got to change my mindset. I've got to change my thinking, or people are seeing this. They're seeing this weakness. I think I was learning something in the 12 step about it. And so I realized I got to fake till I make it. I got to fake it till I make it. I got to lift myself up and try to be stronger and appear stronger and don't keep on looking like I have a sign on my head that says I'm a loser, I'm weak. And so I would stop attracting this. And you know what? It started turning things around. It's like I had a different mindset about my life. I had to begin to get my butt out there, walk with my dog, get in the green grass and fresh air, and start thinking positive thoughts. Louise Hay was helping me with the positive thoughts. And I'm like, I've got to think positively. I can't keep on, letting my mind just be so depressed and down thinking and hatred thinking towards myself. And it started changing things like pretty fast too. I joined a choir. I started doing all kinds of things to turn it around. And I met Dan shortly after, and he was really big into Hawkins when I met him, and he knew a lot about all of this stuff. And he was struggling himself actually, but we worked on it
Working
together.
through those attractor fields. And I just want to walk you through just 2 lines here. This is before we start becoming powerful. Okay, so down here is vengeful, antagonistic, anger, hate, aggressiveness, right? That's 150. But then you move up a little above that. 175 is demanding, indifferent, pride, scorn, and inflation. But then you move a little bit more than that. This is where you start getting healthy. Permitting, feasible, courage, affirmation, empowerment. And then when you move into the 250s, now you're empowered. That makes you go very strong, enabling, satisfactory, neutrality, trust, release, hopeful, inspiring, hopeful, willingness, optimism, intention.
You just keep going up and
harmonious,
up.
Acceptance, forgiveness, transcend. Now you're in the 350s, but what's beautiful, guys, what's very beautiful, he talks about the 400s, where you're filled with a lot of knowledge, a lot of understanding now, right? But let me just go back one thing about this thing here. Once you see where you're at, you can also know where everyone else is at. And you can have grace on them. You can realize these attractor fields are not you. These are just levels of consciousness or castles or homes that you
ways
live in.
Of thinking, maybe.
Yeah, within your castle, ways of thinking. It's not who you are.
No.
You are made God's image and likeness. You are not these attractor fields. So that's why he's saying you don't have to hang out here. And life gets really good up here. I'll tell you how good it gets. When you get into the 400s, you get some great understanding, some great relief because of spirituality and understanding where people are at, where you're at. You're filled with grace. You're filled with acceptance. You can love the unlovable. But what happens when you read his book on transcending levels of consciousness? When you get into the 500, you're going to be blown away. When you hear the 500s, when he tells you the reward for unconditionally loving somebody who don't deserve love, this is so powerful. He said you get spiritual understanding, you get gifts of the spirit. He talks about the 540s. You can actually move into the healing arts.
Like David Hawkins did.
Yes, because you're no longer using mind. They say like the science of mind and stuff are like in the 400s, even 500s. The science is science of mind, unity between 4 and 500 because they're helpful, they're accepting, they're loving. But unconditional love takes you into the realm of beyond mind. It doesn't make sense to love the unlovable. It doesn't make sense to think God is love when you look out in the world like this.
Well, what's funny is you got to get to the accepting mode, which I forgot where that was.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit lower than this 500. But you have to begin to accept and affirm you're good, affirm that you are good, affirm that you're loved, accept yourself, forgive yourself. All these things are below this level of love because that's got to come first. First is love yourself, know who you really are, know that God loves you. You begin to know this, and once you know this, then you are able to accept other people where they're at and love them unconditionally because you first had to learn how to love yourself and accept yourself and accept that God loves you too. And all these things have to change before you can reach that 5-level consciousness. It's natural. You can't force it. It just has to happen naturally.
Yeah, I was at a funeral for my brother with the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they invited me. I was surprised. And when I went on there, I looked at them and they all looked mentally ill. They were talking very slow because lower consciousness, if you're really not connected with this consciousness of unconditional love, like they're Jehovah's Witnesses, so they only love their own. And So when I saw them, they looked kind of pitiful. And I was looking at them, feeling sorry for them, that they had been taught by Watchtower to hate what Jehovah hates, to hate people, to won't you be glad when the apostates are dead? I mean, they've been taught to hate. And I looked at them and they all looked old. They all looked tired. They all looked pretty miserable, didn't they?
Yeah, but when you're in it, you don't
You
notice
don't
that.
know it.
Like Dan, he was actually taken to Barcelona, Spain, all around the world, LA, and he worked for months with people in the world in his job. But he had to be with them day in and day out and work with them and all that. But you can't help but like these people, right? When you hang out with them day in and day out. And so he had to be really responsible. He had to be smart, think things through, figure out how to get through these obstacles he was experiencing in the wood finishing, in these fancy hotels around the world. And he had to really be I don't know, powerful in his own right. So he comes back home and he gets off the plane and he gets in a car and starts heading home and he sees Jehovah's Witnesses in a, I don't know, an ugly van, old fashioned. They getting out and they have these, polyester suits and they're too big or too small or something. And it's like, oh my gosh, we witnesses look mentally ill. Oh my gosh. And, but see, he's already beginning being away so much to be around people who are not in that lower consciousness. He's hanging out with higher consciousness people, even if they didn't believe like he did. And his consciousness was being raised with, he didn't even know it, but he was having to be responsible and engage with the world in a responsible way and doing good things and making changes that are going to help the world, help people. And then comes back to this mental illness and he could see it for what it was. But had he not gone and done that experience and been around those people in very high consciousness and very high end hotels and everyone around him, he would never have seen that this is dysfunctional, what I'm living in here and being away so many months.
It was a contrast.
Yes, contrast.
And so, like Angela said, the company I worked for, the whole parking lot was filled with BMWs, the brand new BMWs. It was the first class company. They flew me all over the world. They let me rent whatever cars I wanted. And a lot of times we rented a Lincoln Town car and just got to travel, just all over the place. And like Angela said, I got to work for like Bill Gates, Ritz-Carlton Hotel, Fulbright and Jaworski law firms. I traveled all over the world. And when I came back, like she said, I saw that van coming down the road. It was in the morning, 9 in the morning. I flew into Colorado Springs and these people get out in these dumpy clothes, this old van, and they start piling out in the street. And I go, holy shit. First of all, I thought, what is that? Who are these people in my neighborhood? And they had, like clothes that didn't quite fit them. And they even went up to this door and this dog came out and his brother was trying to pet it and it started biting him. It was like a pit bull. And I think it actually bit him. And we were just driving by and I happened to be in a Lincoln Town Car cab coming from the airport. And I'm going, holy shit, that's me. That's the witnesses. But like Angela said, they don't know. They don't know they're in that consciousness. And that is what's the beauty. And that's why I talk a lot about Dr. David R. Hawkins, because he can give you a roadmap. He can give you a mirror. He can give you something that you can see yourself. You don't even know who you are. You don't even know.
Question about that.
Yeah.
So what you guys are explaining is the real law of attraction, right? Because people hear that term law of attraction.
Yep.
I know in a lot of religions they'll teach you like, oh, that's all demonic. Stay away from that. It's like black magic. But what you're showing too is that it's scientific, like with that scale, that it's a real science behind it, the law of attraction.
It really is. It really is. And I won't talk a lot about money, but one time we made 7 times our regular income once we shifted a little bit out of consciousness, believed we could start our own business, right, Angela?
Yeah.
We thought, well, we could start our own business. I remember buying a new truck and I cried. I sat there on the steering wheel and I said, how are we going to pay for this? Well, see, I was in a new field, but part of me was in the old. Like, man, I got to have a job. I got to this. I'm out here and I don't even know where the next job's coming from. But it was the tractor field that was going to draw in that new work. And it did. And I put the stickers on the window to go around this. What was it? It was a toll road.
Oh, yeah.
And it's called E470. And I put the stickers on the window of my car and I said, how in the hell am I going to pay $30 a month?
300 is, I think the payment was 300, but he had to bury his other car that it was going south. And he just needed to bury that payment. So he had to get a brand new car to bury the payment. It was kind of like we didn't really have any choice, but it was 0 interest. But the scariness of $300 a month when, you know,
And I had no
that
idea.
was a lot.
But the consciousness drew in work that we had never experienced, me or Angela, before. And Angela had thought at one time at her level of consciousness that she would never have a Starbucks coffee again, right?
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, I'm never going to have a good cup of coffee. And I can tell you, me and Angela have traveled the world. We really have. We've traveled. We ate at
Maybe
some,
not the world together, but
yeah,
the US.
the U.S., but we're getting ready to travel the world.
Yes.
And
Definitely.
and we can tell you consciousness will take you there. And consciousness took us there. I remember not being able to spend time with my kids and all this stuff. Next thing you know, we're buying timeshares, we're traveling, they're getting to shop in San Francisco. We'd take a train ride or whatever they wanted. We'd go to Mackinac Island and ride the jet boats over. And then we and Angela were in Niagara Falls. And I never had anything like that. I had to work from this time to this time, 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. But my consciousness grew bigger. Go ahead.
Yeah, it did because you know, just that whole idea of getting a car for maybe it was $600 a month. I can't remember. 600. Okay, so we were like, oh my God, you know. But we had just started business, see, and we had a small basic car that had to take all of his equipment in the back trunk, and it was so not working, and we desperately needed to get this truck. So we did that, but see, that was the scariness. We're just now beginning in this business. It's not like we've been doing it a while and then we get a truck. It's like in faith, we're being kind of forced to get this truck. But see, that caused a consciousness in itself that I'm now driving in a very proud truck and it's brand new. And you know, and so that raised his consciousness. And then we started making more money because you know you're showing yourself to be successful. Now it's attracting more success. And then we're able to get a timeshare, and then we could take the girls out. Now that's building your self-esteem. You know, my girls are proud of me, and you just keep building this
living in
sense
beautiful
of
homes.
consciousness raising just from making a decision that okay, I'm going to risk it.
I'm
Scared
getting out of
to
victim.
get this.
I'm going to stop letting that consume my time. Now I know what it is. Now I've got a light on it. You know how the Bible says put a light on your sin? Well, look, these lower attractors, you can call them sin, you can call it missing the mark, but you can call them attractors, you can call them consciousness, temples. They're things that we've built up. So Dr. Hawkins is encouraging, get out. There's so much more to life than your damn story in the fake temple that you build up. You're not that temple. You're not that emotion. You're not that feeling. Go ahead.
Exactly. Like Dan thought he wasn't good enough to go into these nice places. And this other lady before he met me was saying, Dan, you deserve to be in that place as much as anyone else. And then his friend, same thing. This guy that lived with him for a while, Dan called him his mentor. And then I came along and I'm like, Dan, you have just as much a right to be in this fancy Broadmoor hotel in Colorado Springs as anyone else. Come on, let's walk around this lake. Let's go inside these hotels. Let's walk up and down. Let's go to that restaurant inside there. And no, we don't belong here. No, yes, absolutely. You deserve to be in here. And it was just this breakdown of standing up and saying, I am not who I've been told I was. I do deserve as anyone else. Why am I any different than anyone else? Why does everyone else get to enjoy this and I shouldn't be allowed to have it? But you know, you have to break through these ceilings, these glass ceilings. And Dan broke through them one after the other, and it takes a little bit of courage. That's even on the attractor field. Yep. Thing courage is right at the 200 level where you begin to go up in the positive.
You're like, I want out. I want out. I want out of this shit.
Right, because the attractor field of 200 is where you begin going in a magnetically positive, physically, it's a conscious level, it's an attraction level, a vibration at 200, see? And everything that you go above that, where it's in the positive realm of things, makes your body go stronger and not staying weak anymore. You're physically getting well in every which way, mind, spirit, body, everything is beginning to shift upwards, and as you just kind of naturally keep going up as you keep working it. And so he kind of talks about what's holding you back from rising to the next level and then the next level. He talks about what you got to do to what you got to break to get to the next level, that you're wanting to, you know, realizing that I'm hanging pretty much around 350 now. Cool. But how do I break free and get to the 400? Okay, now I'm at 400, but now I got to
feel pretty accepting, pretty non-judgmental. I feel pretty open.
I'm using my mind now.
Using my mind. I got my thinker. Like you got your thinker real well,
yeah,
Quinn,
you do,
a lot
Quinn.
quicker than I did. It took me 10 years to start thinking again after Watchtower.
Yeah.
But you already
yeah.
What? Like, So religion, especially Jehovah's Witnesses, and I'm assuming the same with Worldwide Church of God, is that they keep them in those lower fields like prisoners. And sometimes witnesses will try to say when you try to leave, oh, where else are you gonna go? If we don't have the truth, who has the truth? So it's like a trap. They want to make you feel there's nothing else out there, that if you don't know the true religion, then you got to stay with them. And it keeps them, I guess, in that low vibration. And I thought too that, like, when I got baptized, my life sucked. And they say, like, that's normal because you're baptized, so Satan's mad. So now, like, when everything goes wrong, the devil's mad at you because you're serving Jehovah. So they make you think it's normal that your life sucks. And then you're kind of praised for, oh, that means that, Jehovah's proud of you because, you're being attacked, but don't worry, like, the new system's coming. So they stay in that negative field permanently, and they
Yeah,
think
you're
it's
right.
good because that means Satan's after you, so you're pleasing Jehovah. It's like I just had that realization, like the connection
Yes.
Right. And
that
my dad, I was just saying last night how my dad, every time so in the Worldwide Church of God, you're always worried about you got to keep the law just right. So you guys have different sets, but ours is keeping the Sabbath day holy, which is 24 hours of no work, no spending money, no doing worldly things. You just be with God. You go to church, you read your Bible, you take a nap, you don't do anything, you don't go anywhere. Pretty much that's how it works. You pay your tithes, 10%, always 10%. Always, how to keep the holy days. You don't want to work on the Sabbath. If you work on the Sabbath anyhow, anyway, even if you go spend money at the gas station, you sinned. So my dad, when there's something would go wrong and he had to work a little bit into the sundown, then he had this guilt, like, oh my gosh, that's why that happened. That's why our car broke down, is because God's mad at us. Well, he's mad. And then you start getting in this road or this rut, this attractor field of, I'm just never good enough. I'm always messing up. And sure enough, more you attract it. You do more things wrong, and then, yep, sure enough, God hates us. We're cursed. We're not in God's favor. I don't know. It's just fear, 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 and it just feeds on itself. And my dad never felt like he was good enough, and he did overcome that later on. He's probably the only ex-worldwider that I know who has understood the grace that, we're not under that anymore. We're not under that law anymore. That's not God. My dad, he's the only one. I don't even know that I've got it as good as he's understood it, at a deep level. And now he's Seventh-day Adventist. He's in a different set of rules now, but does get it that, God's not mad at him all the time. And I don't know how that happened, but he did get it.
Yep. It was his old pasture. I remember he was real big on unconditional love.
Yes,
But,
yes.
one thing I'll say, yeah, that's interesting. But those are things, like Angela said, she's moving out of, and we're constantly moving. And one thing it will do when you read these levels of consciousness, when you see where you're at, when you see the next level, you'll go, wow, I want to get there. Especially what I got hooked on was 500. When I saw 500, I was hooked. When I saw 540, he was talking about, now you're leaving absoluteness. Einstein, the equations that he had. What was the equation Einstein had? Do you remember whatever? The equation, but MC squared equal whatever.
Okay.
But you're moving out of equation. Now you're moving into miracle mindedness. Now you're moving into gifts. And that's why Jesus said, I don't do nothing of my own initiative. See, he was out of mind. He wasn't even doing it. He said, I'm not doing it. It's my Father doing it through me. So Hawkins says, as we continue to step out of judgment, just accept, and you move into these fields.
Not even judge yourself.
When you hit the 500s, like what we felt, okay, when we were at that seminar with Ireland, as I was feeling that love and embracing it and going, oh my God, just boom, I was healed. So it was absolute proof of what Hawkins talks about, that the healing arts start at 540. Now, sainthood, where the miraculous is happening all the time, is around 560. And then it gets into 700, 800, 900. You almost can't understand those people because they're not there. It's pure awareness. And so, oh my God, it will pull you in and suck you in, and you'll get healthier. You'll get more whole because you're becoming more of what God meant you to be when you were here, a gift to the world, a flower that's unfolding and going to give off your fragrance. You know, when the rose opens, it not only gives all the beauty and perfection. When that rose opens, you see absolute God perfection, and then it gives off an aroma. So we give off an aroma as we continue to unfold in the image and likeness of God. We give off an aroma, we give off a melody, we
and
give
people are
off a
attracted
frequency, we give off a, yeah, and people are attracted. You know, that's what Arlen was saying too. You know, we've had several talks on alchemy, and the last thing she said was to us, we were just sharing back and forth. We were talking to her, she taught us, but she says, you know, Dad, I just started saying I'm this. I'm a healer. I'm a, what was it? Where they uh, do the thing with the little hypnotist. I'm a hypnotizer, you know? And she started doing this hypnotist stuff and all this other stuff. And she kind of took on that identity. Now what she does is she does this hypnosis with people. They call her one after another. And it's needed at that level, wherever she's at. And she does her hypnosis. And then she writes the hypnosis and actually does a hypnosis program for them. So they pay for a consult, and then she writes up a little hypnosis
like a prescription,
like a prescription. And it's the same in the science of mind.
Like what to think and say, like an affirmation kind of thing. Is
yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's done with some music. So in science of mind, when you learn how to do a spiritual mind treatment, it's very similar. It's you when you do a mind treatment, you take when somebody comes in and they pay you for a mind treatment, it's an actual business you can start within the science of mind. But as they talk to you, you find out what they need and want, and then you affirm it there for them. And you affirm that it's already done and that that's who they are and blah, 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 and things happen. Like one time I went in and I paid $45 to do a spiritual mind treatment. And this man, you're going into a little room, he's got a little candle. And he came in, he said, well, let's do this mind treatment. He says, you know, that there's nowhere else that God is not. God is right here now. God is all around you, in front of you. And that's step one in a mind treatment. That's step one. Step two is just bathe in that. Let's just think about that. Is God closer than your breath, the Bible says. I knitted you together in the womb. We can't be separate. As I'm in union, you know, it goes on and on. So you sit in that and you say, yeah, I'm connected. And then while in that connected state, the third part is affirmation. Quinn or whoever, you are a dynamic person. You are an author, Dan.
Whatever you want to be.
This. So I wanted to be an author. I said, you are an author. You're a this. You're going to write that book. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. And then he says, and we give thanks for it because we know it's done. That's part 4. We give thanks for it. We know it's done. It's been done in the heavenlies. It's all heaven is moving now on your behalf, and we accept it and we thank you and we're joyful and then 5 is we release it and we let it go. We release it into the one mind that it cannot return void. So my word that goes forth, which is the word of God within me, goes forth and will not return to me void, but will certainly do that which I have delighted. And we let it go. I walked out of that meeting and I walked into Rhonda Britton, and was a big time author. She got a $250,000 contract for her book. And I walked out and she was right there. And I said, hi, Rhonda. Hi, Raz. And she says, how about we get together for dinner tonight? Is that amazing? Just because of that affirmation. Then another guy calls me out of the blue and he says, hey, I heard you want to write a book. I'll show you how to get, what's the thing you got to get for the book, the little thing inside, the barcodes.
Oh, the barcode, yeah.
You know, he says, I'll show you how to get the barcodes. I'll show you how to do this. I wasn't ready. I affirmed it and believed it. And we affirmed it with 2 or more gathered. It went into the universal mind and it came back. And holy shit, I mean, I'm going to dinner with Rhonda Britton. And, you know, this guy called me. It happened so fast. We have had that happen so fast. And I could tell you other stories that have to do with money when we moved up to, you know, that 7 times our income. That was crazy. I mean,
but staying on track,
yeah.
His consciousness had not risen yet to match what he had just done in that room with that guy.
It was a mastermind. The room was like a mastermind.
True, but so they've affirmed it. They've spoken it. They've felt the feeling of believing that it is so, you know, according to your faith, be it unto you. And you've got to have faith or it won't happen, this kind of thing. So it was there at that moment. But then when you're faced with, okay, let's get you to be an author now, then it's like, you're not, this is not wrong. Okay. But now God in the heavenly realm has got to raise you to that level to be able to write that book. And it's not going to happen overnight. And so you've affirmed it, you've let it go, you've released it. And you know, I think you kind of keep doing that. You kind of just keep saying, okay, I believe God is with me. I believe that this is really going to happen. Every once in a while, you thank you, Lord. I've already given it to you already. I know that it is done. I know that you're working it out in the heavenly realm. I know you're raising me up to be able to match this dream that you've given me to do. But thank you. I know you're working it. I know you're working it. And you let it go again. You let it go. And knowing that God has got it going on. And then sure enough, in time, and so Dan met me not too long after that happened. And we got married and we started a business. And then all of a sudden, he tells me, Angela, you know, I've been saying that I want to write a book. And I believed it for a long time. I did this, I did that with regard to it. And I'm like, really? I'm like, well, why don't we write it then? Boom.
Yep.
One thing led to another. God provided the money just all of a sudden with this massive job that came. And then Dan was scared about signing the contract with these people. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to just do it. And when he was gone, I signed the contract and I stuck it through the fax machine, sent it to the Arbor Book in New York. And we were in business, paid the money. And Dan comes home and I'm like, okay, Dan, I signed it. I sent it. And he goes, what? I'm like, yeah, it's gone, paid. I was like, because he got on the phone with us, this Arbor Book guy, the owner of it, and he goes, "You guys are sabotaging yourselves. That's what you're doing." And I'm like, you know what? You're right, Larry. We are. And so I signed it and I sent it right then and there that we are sabotaging ourselves. And we wrote that book, and it was hard because it was like it was really cathartic. But Dan was sweating bullets, blood.
It was expensive.
Practically,
it was expensive.
It was. But we had a limited time. We had to do it. We couldn't drag our feet because we had to give the information to them so that the book could be written. And we were on task, and we had to keep meeting with this lady and telling her our story. And I'm typing in the middle of the night like crazy and sending that off to her, and all kinds of things were going on. But it happened. But Dan's consciousness, even while it was being written, was raising. And when it was done, but when it was almost done, a terrible pain with regard to the title of the book. And you know, the shocking insider story of Jehovah's Witness. That's what they wanted the subtitle to be. Wrong. No, 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 God, no. And but anyway, they said, no, you got to trust us. We know what we're doing. You don't. And so anyway, we got it written, and
New York Times book review.
Yeah, we got a Kirkus review, fantastic Kirkus review. Anyway, that raised our consciousness. That getting that book out into the world raised our consciousness.
When I was worried about the money, a lady asked us to do a stairwell. And I was like, man, I don't even know what to charge. I said, I got to go pray about it.
It was a three-level, massive columns.
And we finished it in a week.
Oh my gosh.
We finished it in a week, but I didn't know how we were going to do it. And guess what came out of my mouth? $20,000.
It was definitely.
So we made $20,000 in a week. And what's interesting is the universe, because we started to believe, gave us what, two $65,000 to $70,000 jobs back to back. That's more than I made in a year, back to back. 270. You imagine, 65. So this little guy that came along that was kind of came in part of my affirmation. I was affirming a mentor, and I won't go into the whole story, but he was the guy who said you ought to make $1,000 a day. I wrote it in.
You should be making $1,000 a day.
Yeah, and what was that?
Instead, you're making
that tape that I did. It was called Grace by Miracles, Prospering in Times of Uncertainty. And then I said grace could move like a feather, 500, which is otherwise impossible for the mind.
Yeah, would be otherwise impossible for the mind.
Impossible for the mind to think, how am I going to do this? Well, the miraculous happened, and me and Angela made between $1,000 and $3,000 a day for the next 5 years.
Which is what his mentor said you should be making.
Yeah, this guy, strange guy, came out. He goes, "You ought to be making $1,000 a day. What are you making 200 a day? You're losing 800." I'm thinking, who's this crazy bastard I let in my house?
He was like the mastermind person who he believed for Dan, because Dan couldn't believe for that.
No,
$1,000 a day. He's like, "Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind?" Well, it was almost like he spoke prophecy over him. Every time he came in there, he's like, Dan, you're only making $200 a day. You should be making $1,000 a day. And he was always forever saying this. His
glasses were down. He was disappointed. He's like, and I'm letting him live with me for free.
Yeah.
And he's going, I'm just ashamed of you. You look like shit. How are you going to see those kids of yours if you don't start making some damn money? You should be making $1,000 a day. You're only making $2 and you're losing $8. That was his story.
Yeah, and he said it all the time. And it's like,
next thing you know,
he was a secret angel.
He was a secret angel. But what brought him in?
Really weird one too.
What brought him in? Consciousness, not victim, not poor me. This is what happened to me. Alcoholism. I had to get rid of it. I had to get rid of alcohol because
he was there for helping Dan get rid of alcohol.
Yeah, he would help me. He would drive me home drunk every other night. And he says, I don't know why you need that shit. you could do so much better without it. In fact, you do so
He didn't
damn.
drink.
He didn't drink, and so anyway, I finally gave that up because what was happening with alcohol, and I know people drink it, and I don't judge them if they drink it and they like it and it's helpful and it's getting them through a tough time or whatever. That's their business. But what I can say for me was it was pulling me into a lower tractor. It was making me feel sad and hopeless. I'd drink and I'd wake up and I'd think, I feel like shit today. I feel empty today. I feel hopeless today. And I thought, how did I get feeling that when I was feeling so up the other day? So I saw it was working against my consciousness. And then I read Gary Zukav's book, and he said it interferes with the frontal lobe. I forget the name of the book. Gary Zukav. You can look him up. He's got a major book that he's had for years. I can't remember it. But he talked about alcohol interfering with the frontal lobe and the pineal gland. And I was, holy shit, like I'm doing so good. I don't want things to stop. So, man, when I met Angela, I says, I got this beautiful wife. I don't want to screw my life up. I don't want to drink and end up with some other woman, because I would have, because I was too free. I was too loose or whatever. And I thought, if God gave me her as a gift, then I want to keep going. And since we've written 5 more books, our last one was this one here. It was kind of funny. It was called The Secret Brainwashing Techniques of Jehovah's Witnesses. And it's got a guy, hanging from watchtowers, brainwashing. And, we just kept going. We just kept writing books and writing books. I got another one called Ye Are Gods, From Prodigal Son to Divine Union. And this is a book talking about 600 and 700 levels of consciousness. And when you get there, life becomes easy. This is what was beautiful. As you move up in consciousness, you're in a different place. You're drawing different things. Life becomes easier, more beautiful. You start seeing differently. You start seeing people as beautiful. You start seeing life as beautiful. Not I want to get out of here. I want to get into heaven, or I want to get into paradise. Yeah. You're like, man, I can have it now. Yeah. And we do have it now.
I used to tell Dan, it seemed like it was just even a few years ago.
I went out.
I just don't want to be here anymore, Dan. I just don't want to be here anymore. I just want to go home. I wish this whole thing could just end. And I really felt that way. And it was not right thinking. It was absolutely not right thinking, but that's where I was at.
You want to know something beautiful? I got to tell you this. Angela's just started a thing called Empower Me Coach.
Empower Her Life Coach.
Empower Her Life Coach. And Ireland was just said, just say it's who you are and you'll become it. It'll just start unraveling and growing. So Angela calls herself, what is it called again?
Empower Her Life Coach.
Empower Her Life Coach. So we're building 3 websites, right? And the lady's showing us the website the other day. She's going through the pages, and I'm seeing Angela there, sassy, this little sayings under, and I'm seeing this person emerge. No longer Angela in the shadow. No longer Angela.
Get me out of here.
I'm hurt. Get me out of here. Oh my God, my kids did it. It's like, it's empower her. And now she's starting to do these Facebook Lives, and people are liking her. People are like, Angela, I like what you're saying. Keep them coming. And she's like, oh my God, I'm not a nobody. And so I'm watching this person morph out of a butterfly. I'm watching this butterfly pushing this cocoon, going like this. And I'm going, holy shit, she's going to be coming. I wonder what she's going to be like when she gets out of there.
I talked about perfectionism last night. So, when you do a video, you're scared to death, right? And if you start to fumble a little bit, you think, oh my gosh, yeah, sure. If you do fumble, they might just click you off right then and there. But you know what? Does that mean I'm just not going to do it then? I'm just going to forever shut my mouth because I'm not used to speaking publicly by myself? No, I've got to make my mistakes. I've got to fumble. I've got to make a fool of myself, whatever I got to do, but it will never be perfect. So just put out the dang video, and if they click it off, then they click it off, but I'm going to get better as time goes on. And, but you got to start somewhere and not be perfectionistic. And when we're raised in these religions, we tend to be perfectionistic. We're so afraid to make a mistake, to be made fun of, for people to say things you don't want to have them say about you, or make comments you don't want to deal with. You don't want any of that. So you just shrink. But I say, make mistakes, make all the mistakes you want. Just put yourself out there and be authentically you, and just deal with it. And for anybody who's like doing videos and you know what I'm talking about right now, here's my take on it. It's my channel and my Facebook page. And if you come on my Facebook page and my channel and you don't like it, well, go somewhere else then. So when they have comments that say, crap, I just say, well, what's your problem? you're choosing to spend your time on listening to my video. How about you just go somewhere else where you agree with them instead of that you want to complain about what I'm talking about? You chose to be here on my channel, on my Facebook page. What is your problem? Or I'll answer, whatever that might help them because I want to help. But if they're just there to attack, I don't really care what you have to say. You choose where you want to be right now. You're choosing to be on my channel. So I didn't go after you. You came here to me. So go bye-bye. See ya. I don't
Yeah.
care what your thoughts are. Your thoughts are none of my business. Your feelings are none of my business. I mean, I try not to hurt anyone. Okay, I'm not saying that. I don't want to hurt it. I'm not that cold, but I can't choose where they choose to think or how they choose to believe, or those are not my business. So my consciousness is raising because I'm getting to the
fast
point where
now. It's happening fast,
where
faster and faster,
and,
speeding up.
I love them, and I feel sorry for that person who has to attack me so severely at times, kind of a thing. I really do, because I understand. I've been in a lower consciousness where I was down on myself and down on the world and down about everything. And Angela's saying all these positive things. I don't want to hear it. I don't believe that. It's like, okay, I get it. Been there, done that. But you don't attack me. Go somewhere else where you can keep listening to the negative thoughts then. Go hang out in that conscious level until you're done with it. And I'm fine with that. No
She's
judgment.
no
I just
longer
don't.
hurt by it. Like, they don't want me. I'm not going on there anymore. They don't want me. It's not that anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean,
It's
I'm not
different.
perfect. I'm not perfect. I was at a meeting the other day where it's a big 50-person meeting in my community. People are all up in arms about something that's going on in our community. And so they were having this most dysfunctional meeting with no microphone, no amplifier, downstairs, all this noise going on, and you can't hear anybody talking. And they're talking these little three groups where that's interrupting everything else. And I just like, that's it. I'm just taking this thing over. And I just started, ma'am, could you come up here and say that again, facing the audience? I'm just got it going on. And nobody knows me from Adam in that meeting. But I'm like, you know what? This is not working. Somebody's got to take control here. And I just took control, being a stranger to almost every one of them in there. And when I got done, I was a little bit nervous about that. Like, I don't know, just, I don't know, like that was weird that I did that and all that. But it's like my conscious level is changing to where I can actually be of help.
Empowered.
And yeah, I feel a little insecure about it later on because, like I said, I wondered, was that too strong? Was
the new you emerging?
Yeah, it's like my fears. Like, did they think that I was weird because I just kind of took things over? And I had all these thoughts later on. So I'm not perfect, but I'm beginning to not care. Just be my authentic self, and so be it. I can't be any better. And if I can make a mistake, so what? I think it can be overcome, So anyway, whatever
Yeah, that's great.
Should we end this
I think one thing too that I learned too from what you guys are saying is also that what stops people is their own beliefs, like people in a lower consciousness that stay there. So like, I know I'm guilty of it where when I first became a truck driver, I always wanted to have my own truck and work for myself, but I always said, oh, I can't do that. I can never afford it. And I just kept repeating that to myself. Even till this day, it's something I never even tried to do because that lower, I guess, consciousness thinking is what's holding you back. So if I keep telling myself I can never do it, then I'm only attracting situations where I can't succeed at it. And I think that's what keeps a lot of people like not successful. It's their own, I guess, mind, right? That's staying in that vibration because they're telling themselves. It's almost like if you're telling yourself you can't do it, you can't do it. Like you automatically cannot have success because you're already telling yourself you cannot do it. And it sounds like with both of you that once you guys raise your consciousness and started believing in yourself and like I can do it and I will do it, it's like magic almost.
Yeah, they're both the same. In sales, they tell you if you think you can, you're right. And if you think you can't, you're right. It's just energy. It's an energy field. So if you keep affirming I can, send me a guide, send me someone, show me my next step. Another thing that Hawkins talked about, one of the biggest things that changed my life was when I read in one of his books about the attractor field of God help me, right? He said, God help me. And then he said, let your will be done through me, which means the reason I was created, right? So he surrendered into God, let your will be done in me. He said that attractor field was over 800. Look at that. That's up here. That's in the top. he said when he said that prayer, God, your will be done in and through me, it was a surrendered state. He was going to surrender who he was right now. He says, I'm going to surrender and I'm going to allow this, I'm going to let your will be done through me. He said it was a consciousness of 800. He measured it on a kinesiology scale. He asked, what was that? He asked the spiritual, what was that? In kinesiology, he said, was it this? Was it that? Was it? And what he said was that an archangel? And his hand went strong. He said that how his life changed. He said, when he said, God, your will be done through me.
God help me.
God help me. That's it. God help me. He said was an attractor field of 800. And he said, what flipped his life around was a glance of an archangel. The Bible says, you remember, they have angels going to and through. He said it was just a glance, just, a glance of an angel looking down at him. And it flipped his life around.
Because he saw, the angels going around seeking for people whose hearts are turned towards God, seeking for help, right? They're going to and fro, the Bible says. So they noticed that this is David Hawkins, what he tested it. Could that be why my life got flipped around? It was for, they saw that and they said, okay, that man's sincere. And it just, this whole life changed just like that, because he was seeking help from the heaven, from God, from heavenly realms. Please help me. And that angel saw it and he was raised up.
And I did the same thing. I said, God help me. When I went through my alcoholism and I crashed and lost my house, and I said, God help me. I said, you didn't do this. I did it. I don't know why I did it, but I lost everything. And I told God, I said this. I said, God, if you change my life, if you show me you're real, really real, that you really interact with humans, do it to me. And I said, I'll write about you. So when he got me out of the witnesses, I wrote about it, right? We wrote Eyewitness. Right. And then when I had that surrendered state, I says, when I saw the power of that and how it changed, I said, I'll write about it. So that was our next book. It was called Surrender. And it says,
back it off a little
discover your spiritual power to move mountains. Discover your spiritual power to move mountains. Surrender your key to the kingdom within. That was our next one. And then when I finally got the big picture, right, there was a big picture. So this book here is a 600, 700, 800. It's really some deep stuff in there. That's a powerful book. And then the last one was what the hell's a big picture? And that was this one, The Divine Order of Alchemy, The Ancient Secret to Union with God. And this is a lot of esoteric, but this stuff started coming autonomously. This book took 30 days to write. It just dropped in like a download.
I wrote a book too called Awakening from Unconscious Resentment, learning to overcome the hidden saboteurs that are sabotaging your life and relationships.
And Angela co-authored on that. Yep. And Angela co-authored this book. This was a lady. Do you ever watch the movie What the Bleep?
Wow.
By Betsy Chassie? If you haven't watched that, watch that movie. It's called What the Bleep is Going On. She's in Hollywood. We went down to Hollywood, and Angela and them wrote this book, The Stories of Becoming Myself. And these were women that have went through hell and back, and they became themselves. They became empowered. So Angela has a whole chapter in this book.
Yeah, everybody who had a good story that they accepted was given a chapter. So yeah, my whole life stories in one chapter in this book.
Yeah, and Betsy Chassie wrote, filmed, and authored everything with What the Bleep, and it is a powerful, life-changing movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, Angela's thinking we need to wrap it up. We always enjoy talking with you guys. We enjoy sharing. We're really sharing the spiritual discoveries that we're sharing are experiential. They are real. They're not somebody else's stories. They're our stories. And that's what makes them powerful. This is real stuff. And we invite people too. And when we have these deals, if you ever want to connect with us, how can they find us? And maybe they want to come on and share their story sometime. What can we tell them to go to?
I think maybe Prodigal Journeys.
Yeah, you can go to prodigaljourneys.com and just write us and say, hey, I'd like to tell you some of my spiritual discoveries, because as we share our spiritual discoveries from an experiential point of view, then we're talking heart to heart with people. We're just not saying, you know what so-and-so said? Let me read you what so-and-so said. We're saying, hey, this happened to me, and this is how it done it. It's much more powerful and much more transformative. So we invite you, if you've got some stories, come in, share them with us. Say, hey, I just want to do a video myself.
There's also an email address you could do, and it's lifeafterreligion dash mark recovery at gmail.com. Life After Religion dash recovery at gmail.com. And just share your story and, say you want to come on or, even get coached. Dan's an intuitive life coach. I'm, as you know, Empower Her life coach. My email address is angelasinspirations at gmail.com, and my website's angelasinspirations.com. You can go on there and schedule a coaching session with me. I think actually my website's being worked on today, but it'll be back up here real soon. But you can just email me if you can't get to that. And but either Dan and I are here and available. But just FYI for your information, when Jesus said that these and greater things you will do not marvel at what I'm doing, is telling his disciples, for these and greater you will do. And he meant it. And he didn't just mean it for the disciples like the Christian church tries to bullshit tell us. We are striving for that. I'm like, hey, if times were needed and we needed to stop the enemy, then I believe that my God through me is going to say, you mountain, be cast into that water right there and stop that enemy from getting across that river there. And I command it, and it will be so. Or if I need to walk on the water to get over to the other side, I will be able to. That is where I'm going. I'm going all the way. And so is Dan. I believe in it. I do not think that Jesus was just saying that flippantly. I do not believe, as the church believes, most of the Christian church, that it was just for the disciples. It's a bunch of bullshit. And it makes me really, really mad, because Jesus did not intend to be the only one.
And we're seeing ourselves evolve and change. And, in my life now, I can see miracles happen. I mean, I can just see things unfolding. A miracle of Angela unfolding and into this beautiful butterfly, and to see her from being so squashed. When I met Angela, she says, I feel like a bug on a rug, and if somebody just stepped on me, I wouldn't exist. She ain't that way no more. And that's a miracle. There's miracles happening today, and the miracle is you, and the miracle is waiting to unfold in you if you will allow it, if you will let it, if you will surrender into it, if you'll let go of the old programming, the old temples that people have built in you, the watchtower, the churches, and say, no, I'm moving into I and the Father are one. I'm moving into divine union. I'm moving into oneness. And I'm moving into that God didn't create junk when he made me. He made me, he said, what I made was good and very good. And as we hold on to that energy field, things start moving. And that one time when I did those affirmations in my living room, and I was pacing and pacing and pacing, I didn't tell anybody, but the whole wall lit up in fire. The drapes turned on fire. And I was like, what the hell? And I didn't have any candles there, nothing. All of a sudden, the whole wall was ablaze. I grabbed the curtains and I threw them off the deck. It was in my apartment.
Yeah, it's the craziest thing, you guys, because I was in that apartment. Dan was living in there when I met him. Well, he had this fireplace and a nice big fat, thing. And up top, kind of about this high, anyway, he had candles all up there, and he would do his pacing and praying and affirming and,
incense,
and all that. And anyway, way over there was a big wall of curtains and glass, far away from this fireplace where he put everything up on top of, far away, but it just burst into flames. And so Dan ran over, grabbed those curtains, and went out the side glass door and threw it off the deck, so that it wouldn't catch the rest of the house on fire. But why did that happen? Because there was no fire anywhere near. Impossible that even happened. But I don't know. It was
like my old perception, everything. I was willing it away. Right? I was saying no more. No more. And I was affirming those. I was using those mind treatments. I was saying, I know that God's with me. I know my mentor is coming. Dave, the guy that said you should be making $1,000 a day, came in.
Yes. And he did start you right at like,
yeah. So I just want to say, when I was doing the affirmations, when I was playing with the energy of possibility instead of the energy of victim, all heaven and earth was moving at a rate that I couldn't see. The nonlinear was moving. It was orchestrating. It was this guy says, go to John Elway. This guy that was talking about making $1,000 a day. Go over to John Elway, blah, blah. That's where I met Angela.
Yeah.
He was part of meeting Angela.
And he didn't work there long.
His prophecy of me making $1,000 a day was fulfilled. And so the universe, because I said, I'm going to lean into that, I'm going to lean into that energy that I can instead of I can't. I believe instead of I don't believe, and start going there. It's like Angela said, it was like a magnetic field. It pulled me out of those old attractors of victim. And I said, no. And all Hawkins said, all you got to do is be willing. Just be willing. Willingness is power. I'm willing to be changed. I'm willing to step out of this. I'm willing to be made new. I'm willing to be made. And the Bible says, that you would become new in the forces actuating your mind, not becoming a Jehovah's Witness, but become new in the forces actuating your mind. So I stepped into that. And I always tell people that one few week period that I did those affirmations changed my whole life, even up till this day, and continues to change it. That's how powerful these fields of energy are that we're playing with. And only someone who can say that, that's actually experienced it and make you believe it. But the thought of I'm beautiful, I'm wonderful, I'm wonderfully made, I'm in a fear-inspiring way, I'm wonderfully made, I'm connected to source, I've never been disconnected, I just need to become aware of that, I need to get this fucking old temple out of my head that religion is built in me, this fake house, and move into the one house that all possibilities emerge from. When I did, that shit started moving heaven and earth. My ground was moving under my feet. God says, here's a little beautiful girl for you. And she knows how to do all these websites and do this. And
let's get your business
going. Let's get your business going. Oh, let's write that book. Angela can type 75 words a minute. She can edit. I was like, holy shit. And so I'm big on affirmations. I'm big on moving into that energy and allowing the spirit to take us where it will take us. It's not going to be bad. We're not bad. The satanic shit is the stuff where churches are controlling us with fear, doubt, and worry.
So that you won't go up to
so that you won't go to those places, and you'll follow, and you'll be sheeple, and you'll be a part of their organizations and pouring coffee and living their life.
Worthless.
Yeah, I said the other day, I did a thing online and I said, do you know if the word sin didn't exist, that there would be no churches?
Yeah.
And then I did another post of a big, beautiful church. It looked like it was $1 billion church. It had carvings and writings all over it. And I said, are you paying for your salvation? And I said, how much is enough? I said, the church says just a little bit more. In fact, let's just be safe and just keep on giving. It was kind of a joke, but I was just showing the ridiculousness of these fields, these homes they have us in, and the slavery that we've been in. And we're being called out. That's why the Bible says, come out from her, from the illusion, from the bullshit, from the come in back home to the Father, where everything I have is yours. Amen. Everything means everything. So that's what we're experiencing now, and that's what everyone can experience. But anyway, Quinn, you got any final thoughts, or should we end it here?
I learned a lot today, so I enjoyed it.
Good.
I'm trying to think. Let me see if it comes back. It was something you were just saying. I think I lost it. Yeah.
That's okay. If you remember it, just tell us later. We have some things I want to share with you later too. We'll connect about the witnesses and the monies that they're putting away. There's a whole lot more of them than you said. I had a guy give me a list the other day of like, this many of investments, and I couldn't believe it. It was like, I asked him, where'd you get the information? It was stuff I've never heard. It was a spiritual guy. He calls himself John of God, but he says
John Mitchell.
John Mitchell. And he's online, but
he seems crazy to me, but he says some really
he came up with this, and I said, where did you get like, who are you?
He's very strange.
Yeah, if you talk to him, you'll see what I mean. He's a former witness, but he's very, very much esoteric now. He's totally different, and
anyway, but he got some incredible information.
I want to share that with you later. I want to call you and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, we're going to sign off here. Thank you for joining us, Quinn.
He thought of it.
Yeah. This is what I thought of. Do you think like the people that control these religions at the top, that they fully understand this consciousness thing, so that they're deliberately putting them in that low vibration? Like, do you think that they understand it, or you think they're maybe victims of the whole system itself?
No, they understand it. They understand it. That's why the Bible says, the lower consciousness or Satan are old masters. They transform themselves into light. They're alchemists in their own way, but they're dark alchemists. So there's people here that are just, that have that going on. I don't think they're all trapped. I think people choose, like there's a lot of our stars today that choose witchcraft, and the people they meet online, and that you see online that they're, in Hollywood, that one lady that controls all those people, and they go to her and they have them stand in the water and do all
Oh,
kinds of
right.
weird shit. So,
Is that Lady Gaga?
yeah, that was one of them that went to see that lady, but several of them, I've seen several pictures of so many celebrities and things.
Yeah, they kind of get trapped in it.
They get kind of trapped in it, but yeah, I think there's just dark forces here, and they do know what they're doing because think about it, they use fear, and what's their agenda? Money. So money
Or power.
and
Or
power.
power. Like those guys in the back room at the witnesses where you guys have people going to be scrutinized, interrogated.
Yeah, elders
They
meetings.
know what they're doing. They've got the rule book. They know it. They know that's evil.
Well, some of those guys in there are just doing what they think Jehovah wants them to do. But above that, I think above that, the mind that is selling off kingdom halls, the mind that is having people build kingdom halls, the mastermind behind the lesser camps. There's usually a mastermind, you know what I mean? So there is a mastermind. It's very, very clever in the witnesses. I've even said, because we used to think it was God, how they build halls. They build these halls in 2 days and they take money from this one and share the money. And there was all this organization going on. And then when you come out and you realize you can't disagree with these guys, you can't have an original thought, you're like, whoa, this is dark. And they say, we're your spiritual mediators. And so, yes, to answer your question, yes, I believe that the forces on top are hurting people. I mean, just think about it. The last assembly, they told them that you're going to concentration camps,
Well,
FEMA camps. And the whole intermission, we sat through the intermission before the drama started, and it was all about being enslaved. They were showing Hitler. They were showing prison camps. They were showing people going into prisons. I thought, what is this? And then they showed the movie of them fleeing and leaving everything behind. So definitely the organization is connected to, our government and different things. We know that because of, what happened with the jab and stuff.
Yeah,
So
so I knew that they were definitely like they know what they're doing as far as like the evil, like they know they're brainwashing people, but yeah, what I was curious about is like the consciousness stuff, and you're saying that they know that too, right? Like that's what I was wondering. Like I knew they were
yeah,
evil, they're controlling people, but like that they specifically understand the consciousness scale and specifically like know like okay,
I
this
think
is
there's some that do. Yes, because, and I don't know if they're higher beings from another planet. I don't know, but I know there's some higher consciousness in the negative realm. Like someone who can transform themselves in an angel of a light is a master. I believe there are masters of darkness. And I think they run a lot of churches, a lot of these things because we've even seen the attitude in the Christian church change, where the pastors are now ruling with an iron fist because they're losing their money, they're losing their control. And I'm thinking, how can you not understand some of this new stuff that's coming in? How can you, still believe the same when there's so much information? See, they've come out of academia, and it's like the people are waking up, the people are getting smarter, the people have got an encyclopedia right in their hands so that they can look up anything at any time. There shouldn't be no more falsehood. So the fact that you still are in love with leading people, with people that worship you, that's what I had a ministry, me and Angela, going into these churches and telling these pastors, get rid of your PhD, blah, whatever we did. But we were speaking directly to them that, you're in your ego and you're interested in corralling people. You're interested in admiration from the people. It's like an elder. I think it'd be the toughest thing to leave the elders because Jehovah chose you. Brooklyn, New York said, you're worthy now to be an elder and, preside over his sheep. Wow. What a thing to have to walk
It just
away
seems
from.
like power and control. I mean,
It
I could
is.
just think that rule book that those young guys have to go in to interrogate these people in those rooms. I mean, they have them in there into the night a lot of the time, just making them go over it and over and over. It's the most traumatizing experience, and you'll never be over it because the shame is so deep after they've made you explain how did you do that again? How were you positioned? How did you do that to your husband? Da 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 da. Where were you sitting exactly? And let's talk about it again. Okay, now what were you and over and over and over. The shame is so strong, it's ingrained like fire, like branding you. a shameful woman because you know, did this thing, you know, this kind of thing. People know that's evil. You don't have them, they're getting their jollies off of doing it. You can't have a right mind and do that to somebody into the night. And person after person, it's like the control, they know that what they're doing. I'm sorry,
My
but
brother's wife told her, were you finished? Sorry.
yeah.
Okay. But my brother's wife told her, if you go to one more elders meeting, I'm going to leave. Because, you know, you're into the night with all the boys and you're talking about some sister who had sex. And, you know, she told him, she says, you go to that assembly. She says, I need some damn help with these kids. And you're going to be standing around elders meetings for hours after the assembly, hours during the week. You're never home. I have to raise this kid. They adopted a kid. But I think, Quinn, there's a bunch of people that, like us, that were totally convinced it was the truth based on a very limited perspective. You know, God's name's Jehovah, he's not a Trinity, you know, the indoctrination we have. But the higher ups, I have to believe that those guys selling property, those guys telling people to do this. I mean, even the whole thing about blood, you should know as a church, you don't get involved in blood. You know, it's those people dying, lots of people dying because of blood. You should have never went there. And they say the guy, Barbara Anderson, did a show on Rick Farron, and it was the blood liaison head guy. And he said he knows the guy who established the blood doctrine. And she said, that guy said, they went to him and they said, dude, we got to change this doctrine. We're killing people. And she said he was completely nuts. The guy who instilled that was completely nuts. And he said, we can't stop it. It's too late. We've already made the proclamations. But she had a guy on that was in the blood liaison at Bethel in those committees that left and said that the guy was absolutely insane that put that in there.
And you know, she worked there in what, Bethel?
Yeah.
Forever.
So that guy, you got to wonder what guy would tell people don't take blood and sit back and watch people die and say, oh, this person was martyred for Jehovah. I don't know if you remember that watchtower with all the martyred bodies on it, all the little kids that died for Jehovah. Yeah, it had a whole page of kids and children and people that were martyred for Jehovah.
In the book.
You know, you imagine if you were that man going, I hope I got that scripture right. Well, that scripture doesn't have anything to do with blood to save your life. It has to do with strangled animals and unclean. You know, it's totally off the charts.
Yes.
But
we should.
But anyway, we should end this. We're at about 2 hours. But yeah, Quinn, that's a great thought. Yes, and I do believe that, unfortunately, on the very top, there's a control. It knows what it's doing. It needs those people. It needs builders. It needs their money. It wants some of their homes when they die. They're into real estate. They're trying to morph now into Christianity. They're trying to save their organization. They're talking a lot more about Jesus now. They're trying to look more mainstream.
It's
they're
like Worldwide did.
letting them wear beards. So they know what they're doing. Why would they have a mastermind meeting and tell everybody to wear beards? I'll tell you why. Because they want them to look more like the world. They want them to look more. See, when we didn't have a beard or a mustache or a beard anyway, we would look like different. We were Jehovah's Witnesses, right? We were clean cut. We were shaven, not even a haze on your chin. And so they know, the people on top know that we've got to get these people to mesh in with the regular people so that we don't look so the same. And they're changing the doctrines. They're making everything simple to save their organization. And that is evil. Instead of saying, I'm sorry, we misled you, they're changing everything. Everything's going to change.
That's right.
But anyway,
well,
Quinn.
Thank you, Quinn. Bless you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Let's talk later.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Talk to you guys later. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Quinn.